But
Yeah.
this is the storytelling that I do over the course of 31 days where,
Yeah.
if I watch a couple really high class thrillers, then I got to watch a schlocky 80s slasher. And after I've watched, a couple really hard, make you feel down, sometimes I throw in a kids movie with
Yeah.
Dracula and Frankenstein. And after I watch something really great like Ghostwatch, it has me curious about getting back to the roots of, where Ghostwatch was inspired by War of the Worlds. Let's watch a new War of the Worlds that would theoretically be inspired by the likes of Ghostwatch and then the found footage craze that swept movie and horror movies for the next 30 years after it. What is up, my guy?
What up? What up? How's your week of horror been?
Pretty good. How's
Not
your
too
week
bad.
of just living in the world been?
I was in Chicago for the last week,
Hey.
and it went from 80 to 85 with, I don't know, 60, 70% humidity
Mm-hmm.
to 62 with 30% humidity. So it
The
was like full fall. I was there for a nice move into fall. I'm like, oh, it's finally here. Then we get back to LA and it's 85. And I was like, never mind. So a little whiplash, but
There was a half a second in my brain where I thought, oh yeah, and you came back to like Utah where we're getting 60 and raining. And then I remembered like I haven't seen your actual face in
in
years because
years.
you don't live in the same place as I do.
You know, I gone a handful of times between 2018 and 2020,
Yeah.
but now I only go like, if at all, once a year for like 1 or 2 days for my grandma's 80 plus birthday.
There you go. You come for every birthday just in case?
Oh, I didn't come this year because I was like, she just won't go, which
That's
I know is terrible. But every time I call her, she's like, I wish Jesus would just hurry up and get here. And I was like, when your friend says he's coming to pick you up and he's
that
2,000
sucks.
years late, he just might not be coming.
Actually, you need to go to him at this point,
Yeah, I was like, he's wondering why you're late. But no. So I'm gonna try and come for Christmas, but we'll see. At
Eh, that's fun.
least for a
I didn't
couple
realize,
days.
I didn't know you had like extended family up here anyway.
Yeah, all my aunts and uncles and cousins.
All
Everyone's
right.
there except for like I think three of my cousins are outside of Utah.
Yeah.
Of all 20 something. So
Dang.
yep, yep, yep. Well, it's pumpkin patch season. Let's talk about your favorite pumpkin
Heck
patch
yeah.
first. Do you have a
We went
shout
to
out?
one this week.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not my favorite. It was on the cheap side. I don't know the names of any of the pumpkin patches, but I
That's fine.
know that we drive out to the middle of nowhere that give it 10 years in the state of Utah and it'll just be cul-de-sacs and suburbs anyway. And there are farms that exist and they just repurpose
Beautiful.
them with slides and no OSHA requirements and let the kids roam.
A side tangent about this, since you just brought it up. I have a couple friends. We played paintball at BYU, competed and
Yep.
whatever else.
Oh
They
yeah.
came down to LA for a huge event, 800, 900 people, 2 days
Bro,
full
I
of
saw it
fun.
on the social. I was going to ask you about it.
It was such a blast. And one of them really wants to open a paintball field in Utah, but the only way you can make it viable is by doing the Halloween zombie paintball thing.
Yeah.
Because that's when everyone comes out to go try something fun.
And
If
then you could
not,
probably repurpose it for Christmas too and just have it
yep.
be like,
Hey,
the night Santa got shot or something.
well, they did that at the
Use
big
your
ice
imagination.
castle out there in Midway one time. They were
Okay.
like, play paintball in the ice castle, shot a big video about it. Whatever. But yeah, because of that, I'm always like, Utah, pumpkin patches that are just on farms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Repurposed paintball situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good business.
It gets the families out. Like, I think we literally talked about this last year, but as someone who does have a young family, I appreciate Utah's commitment to
Yep.
just crap to do for young families.
I went to a movie theater back where I used to live, anyways, by the marina, just kind of like closer to the water.
Yeah.
And in the parking lot, there's the Barnes and Nobles that left. Nothing's come back there. And we're like, why is it all fenced off? What is this? And it took us 2 weeks of going back to be like, oh, this is their pumpkin patch? Just part of the parking lot of this
Aw.
Barnes and Nobles Baja Fresh coffee shop, Indian restaurant. Like, what? The DSW is down there. So it's a tougher time when you're in the middle of the city. I'll say that much.
I mean, when the tariffs are coming down for your pumpkins that you have to import from somewhere with actual farms, it's,
Yep.
it's pretty rough.
Them Guatemala pumpkins are hard to get.
Mm,
Oh. Well, let's talk about movies now, since
okay,
we're in the fall spirit.
let's do it.
Last week, you took us through some great movies. What did you have on the list this week? Or I guess where did you start this week?
Yeah, I started kind of high class and I realized it. I was feeling
Okay.
it. So I'm
All
doing
right.
this in real time. And as we've mentioned, as I do a 31 Days of Horror, I never really have a hard set in stone list of on the fifth day of
Yeah.
Halloween, my horror movie marathon gave to me, like, I'm going to watch this movie for sure. So I just kind of take it as it goes. And I had just watched two really good movies. I started off with Saw 2. That's going to be my recurring theme for the next few years. I start with a Saw movie. And then
Yeah.
I watched Eraserhead and Sinners, and they were very good. And so next I wanted to watch a really bad 80s slasher to get
Wonderful.
that's where Halloween feels like Halloween to me. And so we were talking about Halloween and Christmas and repurposing, and it was Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. Not the
Shot
Silent Night from a couple years ago.
No, and that was a remake. So there were a couple sequels to Silent Night, Deadly Night, as there always were in the 80s. And then
Okay.
there was a remake. And the reason I chose this one this year is because there is going to be a remake in 2025 as well that goes right back to the original.
Oh, okay.
And so it seemed prescient. They also are not releasing that until Christmas season because there's this constant conflict. I also, during the course of this week, I'm not going to mention it because it wasn't like I didn't finish it, but we
Hmm.
put on Nightmare Before Christmas for my 2-year-old. He's
Okay.
enjoyed just watching the first 30 minutes of that at various times during his 2 years of living. But there's this like little symbiotic relationship between Halloween and Christmas. And then when you release a Halloween/Christmas movie, usually it gets released for the Christmas season, not the Halloween season. And that's what they're going to do for 2025's edition of Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is the 1980s version, and better. I'd never seen it before.
Okay.
I still am coming. I'm still turning over rocks to see what's under there for these 80s slashers sometimes. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, and I was surprised how relevant like it possibly could be. Big theme in the 2020s is making horror just trauma.
Yeah,
It
that's
is the
true.
buzz. Smile did it, and I kind of liked it when Smile did it, but I've seen so many of those now since that I even view Smile worse now because the monster is trauma and it gets old. Even
Yeah.
so, talking about remakes in 2025, the new I Know What You Did Last Summer that came out this year, just trauma.
Hmm.
It's they just lean into it so hard. In the 1980s, we weren't doing that, but Silent Night, Deadly Night kind of does that. The story
Uh-huh.
starts with this young family that's just driving around on Christmas Eve in the snow. Also shot in Utah, by the way. We talked about Utah pumpkin
Lovely.
patches. You see, there are some Utah landmarks that pop up during the course of this movie, shot out in Heber Valley.
Yeah.
But so this young family's driving around, and this guy that plays a mall Santa is going on a robbery spree, and they come across him. He's pretending that his car's broken down. He holds the mom and dad at gunpoint, tells them to get out, shoots the dad, rapes the mom, and
Mm.
this 5-year-old kid that's in the back seat with his 1-year-old or 2-year-old little brother sees it happen.
Oh,
And so Santa, this symbol of hope and goodness in the world, becomes to him a trauma response, a trigger where every Christmas now, as he has to go to an orphanage, we see him at like 8 years old. And then we fast forward to him
hmm.
being 18 years old. And every Christmas, he obviously has a problem, and the nuns have to kind of deal with it there, where Christmas brings back these memories to him. And so coming in, I didn't realize I'd seen Krampus, I'd seen other like Christmas/Halloween things. I didn't know if it was going to be like actual Santa is the bad guy. No, this just very much takes place in a non mystical world. It is just some guy that was playing Santa one time did this one bad thing, and when he turns 18, when he's an 18-year-old, that's when the majority of our movie takes place in the 1980s. He actually ends up going on a killing spree triggered by Santa as well. And so he dresses up like Santa. And so this kid that witnessed a bad thing when he was a little kid becomes the bad thing in the
Interesting.
future. And it's like pretty good.
Ahead of its time. Ahead of its
It
time.
is truly ahead of its time. They didn't realize it. There's there are some like very 1980s moments. There was like it felt like a literal Coke commercial whenever he's at he works at a toy store at some
Okay.
point, and that's why they dress him up. He has to be dressed up as the Santa because their Santa doesn't show up for Christmas Eve, and that's what really brings it out of him.
Yikes.
Um, but when he's just like stocking the shelves and we're thinking, oh boy, he's cured, he's better now. It's been however many years, he's going to live a fulfilling life. The movie kind of tells that with its film language too, where they shoot it like it's a happy-go-lucky Christmas time kind of thing, and then it gets back into 80s slasher.
Back to the slashing. I was just looking on trivia as we're talking about it because I'm like, what is this movie? I was thinking the David Harbour movie, different movie, different movie. But you're
Yeah,
right. There's a
also
2025
Murderous
remake.
Santa. Yeah.
Yeah. This opened the same day as Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street.
Fantastic. Yes, I saw that in my little like
What?
Wikipedia research. So 1984, and this outgrossed
Yeah.
the Nightmare on Elm Street because at the time release schedules were just very different than what they are nowadays. And I guess right now they're different than they were 5 years ago when we could really count on them. But or I guess 6 or 7, whatever, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1984, same weekend as Wes Craven. Nightmare
Big
on Elm
weekend
Street.
for horror fans.
Heck yeah.
Does this
And
make you want to watch all the sequels?
No.
Okay.
But I mean,
I'm
I
going to
might.
throw one in every year.
But it was, yeah, I was surprised. And it ticks all the boxes of 80s slasher. The best kill is they're in this lodge kind of thing. And so there's deer antler head on the wall and these teens that were having sex. Okay, so again, in the 1980s, we were punishing teens for their indiscretions with slashers, right? That was the whole ethos of Friday the 13th, which I'm going to get to a Friday the 13th sometime this year, probably on the 13th. But so teens are having sex. The reason our Santa guy, the killer, the kid, wants to kill people is because he was like, it got ingrained in his brain. Santa sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He's making a list, whether you're naughty or nice. And if you're naughty, you must be punished. We reward the nice, we punish the naughty. And so he's taking upon himself the mantle of Santa to go punish the naughty. So this like moral tale that's in all 80s slashers, whether, under the surface or it's very on the surface for this one, where these kids were off having sex. And the most iconic, I think, kill in this one is he takes a topless teen girl and just shoves her slowly onto these deer antlers on the wall. And you see the antlers poking down through her abdomen. Nice and gory, nice and 80s, and everything kind of like connected, right? Like these slashers, sometimes they're killing to kill, but this had like a little bit more there to it, and it's good enough. Like sometimes they try to do a lot and then it's kind of lame. It's a good enough, just dumb slasher, and it's doing like trauma and morals and all the stuff that others bad horror movies try to like just touch and then go away from, or they just like glance. This one, there was a little bit more.
Little ahead of its time,
Not a single recognizable Christmas carol for like 90 minutes of runtime. They are singing what are very clearly supposed to be Christmas carols, and I have a pretty good library of Christmas carols up in my brain. Didn't recognize anything until we got to the very, very end.
Couldn't get the rights to them if there's even rights to Christmas carols.
Mm-hmm. Very low budget. Like I said, filmed in Utah.
Yeah.
The whole concept is that it's a very Catholic orphanage that he goes to, but the climactic scene happens across from an extremely recognizable Mormon church for Utah.
Oh, that's funny.
Same design that they were using in the 1980s that still are standing all over the state now.
Yep. Pick them out. I saw this was the main actor, the main kid's first acting performance, the 18-year-old.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's behind, a fake beard and in a Santa suit the whole time and just says the word punish a ton. But he's like a tall, handsome guy whenever he's like before he turns into Killer Santa.
Robert Brian Wilson. All right. And this one is rentable on VOD. Is that right?
Probably. I don't remember where I watched this one.
All right. Linked in the show notes. Rent on VOD. What about the next film on this week's watch?
Next up was The Craft from 1996.
Okay, so I hope she's not listening, but one of our friends is having her birthday party at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, in which they're showing The Craft as part of Cinespia. They do like, big screenings at the cemetery. We went to go buy tickets way too late, and they're reselling for $170 a piece. So we're not going to go see it with her, sadly. Tell me about The Craft, though. Spoil it a little bit.
What you're missing out on is a really stinking good witches movie. So, released in 1996, what else was Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich doing in 1996? The same year as Scream comes out. Wow. Nev Campbell, like, great witchy movie, great Halloween vibes movie, right? We did this last year with Practical Magic. Just there's something that's Halloweeny, even if there's no blood and guts and gore and big slasher. It's just these like witches on the outside that they actually are witches, right? We are kind of introduced to
Yeah.
this high school in Los Angeles, this new kid's in town, and she gets kind of bullied for a little bit. So she identifies with the outcast girls who, are gothy and witchy and whatever. Turns out they all actually do have witchy powers. And so we get this cool, like, we are 2/3 of the way through the movie before anything really nefarious or witchy happens, and it's so fun. It is genuinely, it's like a Linklater high school, just like cool stuff's happening, but like also with their casting spells on their friends. And then we get into a plot for like the final act where the other three girls that were already there, they start going a little bit too far, a little too much with the witchy stuff, right? They're being bad with it. And so the new girl to town who has better witchy powers, she tries to push back on him. They have a confrontation. There's some really good special effects going on where for 1996 or that even hold up now, that's kind of fun to watch, where they have their witchy battle at the end. And then she shoves them away and eventually like she wins. No one dies or anything, right? The stakes aren't that high. Well, I mean, they do kill like a rapey bully earlier on, and that's where the morals of this movie are kind of funky because honestly, the witchy girls that were casting witchcraft and were kind of being viewed by our new kid to town, who is Faiza Bulk, or no, the new kid was Robin Tunney. All kinds of just the '90s names that you would
Yeah.
expect in these teen movies. Anyway, one of the girls that was already there is a black girl, and she was the victim of like just obvious '90s racism, and so she like claps back a little bit and like says, this it's a pretty blonde girl that thinks she's better because she's pretty and blonde, and the witchy spell that the black witch puts on her is your hair will fall out.
Oh no.
It's not that bad, right? Like
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
that's actually like pretty proportional
Alopecia.
response to racism, and yet our like new person says, "No, you're taking things too far."
Wow.
So what?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, new witch to town. Right at the end, she is the more powerful witch. She wins, and the old three cadre of witches just kind of go back to their thing. They lose their witchy powers. She leaves, but for 2/3 of it, well, they're just kind of like having fun doing, casting spells and being buddies, finding your group on the outside of society, which is what witch stories really should be doing, right?
Yeah.
That's our mythology of witches in the real world of accusing women as witches. It was kind of a really good way to do all of that. And then it tries to like, I think, do a little too much at
Yeah.
the end.
Witch Hazel and Confused, Richard Linklater's witch movie. Now, do you like or have you seen the Legacy sequel, the Blumhouse 2020 Craft Legacy?
I have not.
I know it's not the same director. I saw he executive produced it, but I just wondered, yeah, is this like on your list now? Is it good enough? You're like, oh, let's see what Blumhouse had to say 20 years later.
I mean, this is certainly good enough, but much like Silent Night, Deadly Night, I've seen enough horror sequels
Yeah.
that they don't match up or measure up anyway.
Hmm.
So maybe I will at some point in some list, but probably
Okay.
not this year.
The Craft, it's on Amazon Prime Video and on VOD. Sounds like a fun one, honestly. Now I'm kind of
It
jealous
really
we're not
was.
going.
Yeah,
1996.
worth a watch for sure.
Where'd you go from there?
Werewolves Within.
Oh, tell me about the werewolves within. This is a newer movie, right?
This is a newer movie and it's a comedy.
Okay.
I had watched enough, like I'd done slashers, I'd done serious, and I'd done kind of fun, like '90s feel. But this is just straight up designed to be a comedy that also happens to have some horror elements. I'm always looking for different places to find new movies, right? Lists on the internet. I have a book of great horror artwork that once a year I'll just open the book at random and poke, and I'll just watch that movie, whatever it is.
Fun.
This year I did crack open the old Chat GPT and
Ooh, all
said,
right.
give me a horror list. It compiles lists from the internet that I was already doing anyway. And this is one that
Yeah.
came up that I had never heard of before. So, I
Okay.
went and researched it actually on the internet. It's on a lot of like best horror comedies of the past 5 years. It's fine. It is, as it started, so it's about werewolves, right? And it's going to be this group that comes to a new town, and there's a storm out, and so they're going to have to be in this one cabin, and one of them's a werewolf. And I thought, oh, it's werewolves. It's that game. It's the card game. It's the party game.
Yeah.
Werewolf, right?
Guessing who's
And
a werewolf?
it took me until the very end, where in the credits it said based on the video game Werewolves Within.
Oh,
And Ubisoft is one of the production companies that flashed at the very beginning. Turns out there is like a VR headset you can buy the game that you can play with like pieces of paper if you're industrious.
interesting.
The game Werewolf or Mafia, right, that you deal out with cards or any of these kind of social deduction games. So
Okay.
it is the film version of someone's a werewolf. Who is it? But, that game was based on movies where it's a story about someone's a werewolf. Who is it? So this is a pretty good way to do it. Sam Richardson is our star. He is the other guy in the Detroiters alongside Tim Robinson. So if you've seen the Detroit Lions like schedule release video or any clip from the Detroiters, and you recognize Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave, right? This is the other, and he is pretty good. He is a highlight. It's also got the AT&T girl,
Milana Vaintrub.
which she was almost in a Marvel like TV show. She was going to be Squirrel Girl. Even at the time when this came out, I think she was already in her 30s. Like even when Squirrel Girl was announced to be in the new Young Avengers, she was like pushing 30.
Yeah.
So that was flawed casting probably from the get-go. But you wonder how big of a project she will have to be in her acting career to not just be
The AT&T girl.
AT&T girl. Marvel might have done it for her, but that didn't really get off the ground. So she's in this, and those two have a pretty good dynamic. There's some fun, witty jokes. The director is actually a guy that you would recognize from like College Humor videos if you were on the internet in 2011. And he has four total movies to his directing credit, and I didn't recognize any of them, and this is one of them. But it's, it's good, ish. It's funny at times. I would not put it on my list of 10 best horror comedies, but I'm glad I watched it. It was an interesting little take on the werewolf story. And at the very end, there really is a werewolf. There is a point where you kind of think, oh, there was like no werewolf, and we're going to say something about communities turning on each other. But then there is a werewolf. And
okay.
the transformation scene is that's the money shot for any werewolf movie. This one, it's pretty low budget and it's just a comedy anyway, but transformation looks fine. The werewolf is a decent enough monster, and there's action at the end. Cool.
Okay, based on a video game, almost happenstancely.
Ish.
The director, Josh Rubin, is in The Grammar Nazi from College Humor. He plays Londa. Anyways,
he also, the six whatevers that you'll meet at college, the six roommates you'll have, he's like our audience stand-in, just kind of guy that's in all of those videos. The six girlfriends you'll have at college. Yeah. He's in dropout content nowadays, which is a lot of the old College Humor people that you'll see popping up on your TikTok or if you pay for the dropout service. So cool. I didn't know that he had directed anything. Thought he was just this guy that was in some sketch comedy, but
fun surprise.
It was a super full moon out. Like I needed to get some kind of werewolf movie. This was the one I chose.
Not a bad one. I was going to say he directed Hard Eyes this year that came out Valentine's Day-ish, which was like a murder slasher, some guy with neon heart for eyes. Anyways, I just remember almost booking tickets to it, being like, oh, this must be like a rom-com. It was not a rom-com.
Is your wife, is your longtime significant other, is she, because she does movies, she'll go see movies with you, but does she get into any genre stuff?
No.
No, that's fine.
Hard avoids. I had to convince her to watch a couple that I was like, it's barely scary, but it's good. But our first date was seeing A Quiet Place Part 2, if that tells you anything. So, a little bit of scares is good. Yeah. But that's Tristan level scares.
You got it.
Werewolves Within 2021, available on Hulu or VOD. Take us into October 7th's movie.
I think Werewolves Within might be available on, when you say VOD, it might be available on AMC Plus as well, because I signed up for the free trial of AMC Plus, which wraps in Shudder, which is going to have a lot of good horror content. If you're a horror fan, cannot recommend Shudder enough. That's where a few of these. So the next day, I also watched something that was on AMC Plus / Shudder. That's an add-on to Amazon Prime or however you want to do that, called The Beyond from the 1980s. So this is Lucio Fulci. classic Italian director, and it is about a Louisiana hotel that is built on the Hellmouth. It's built on the entrance to hell, one of the seven gates to hell.
Wow.
And it's just this southern hotel that we start with it in like the 1920s or 30s, maybe 1800s, and, graphic events that happened there. And then we fast forward, it's been abandoned all this time. And now someone new is going to buy this hotel and fix it up. And demonic stuff happens because it is on the gate to hell. And it is Italian giallo gore, great graphic, great practical effects, right? In 2021, Werewolves Within comes out and it's a very CGI looking werewolf that they turn into. This is, there is a stark contrast between what the Beyond is showing you on the screen, the colors, the effects, and I've watched some good movies so far too, right? Eraserhead and Sinners looked good. They were cinematic. This is the most beautiful movie that I've seen so far this year, and it probably will be for the whole 31 days.
Wow, the stills are horrifying.
Yes, a lot of eyes
Oh,
stuff. So one of the
yeah.
themes is that once you're like in hell, you go blind. One of the girls that's one of the gatekeepers of hell, essentially, or one of the ushers, she's this blind girl that they kind of take in, and they, one of the lady that buys the hotel, she kind of trusts her because she's just a blind girl, but she's blind because basically Satan has made them blind. And at the very, very
Oh,
end,
Lord.
our two main characters walk into hell and they are blinded. And that's kind of like the final scene, is that they will now be just Satan's minions as well. It is one of these kind of movies. And it's heavy. It is very atmospheric. And yeah, just very beautiful. We get eyes poked out, right? A hand comes out of the wall and just like thumb into eyeball. The camera
Oh,
sits on it for like the whole thing to watch them pluck an eyeball out of a living person. At another point, there's like a couple nails in the wall where someone had been nailed up to the wall. So nails are sticking out. And then later on, a head is just driven backwards into that nail so that the nail is long enough it pokes out through your head and the eyeball is like skewered on the end of the nail and the head is pushed back. And gross stuff, just vivid blood, face melting, just like, you get the mannequin heads and you just melt them just to show it. Good looking stuff.
Lucio. Why are the Italians? They're either going full Christian or they're like, you know what, drag me to hell and pop some eyeballs out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, so
wow.
I mean, very much in the line of Suspiria and
Yeah.
the, some of the other Italian giallo films that I've watched over the course. This kind of checks that box where I try to work myself through the subgenres during the course of 31 days, even though this happens in Louisiana and it's all
Yeah.
okay. So very beautiful film to watch, but the biggest beef that I have is how can you be so astute, so in tune, and make the visuals and the feel and all of that so perfect on screen. And it was basically a foreign movie that
Okay. Yeah.
everyone was ADR'd. I don't know if they were
Oh.
American actors, but the lips and the sound of everything was off for the whole movie. It was like it was dubbed, even though it took place in Louisiana. The original version was English. It's not like it was made in Italian and then translated.
Yeah.
The actors, you can see their lips. They are saying English words. It just doesn't quite match up. And it just made me so mad because Lucio Fulci is he's such a specific director and he's making such good things. And then he just didn't care how
About the
it
sound?
sounded. Like that's half of a movie is visual and what it sounds like to me. And it was distractingly bad.
Interesting. I mean, I was looking up trivia, like, is there someone that mentions the sound? They just say that a lot of the special effects intensive scenes were filmed on sound stages in Italy. That still doesn't make it
But the
any
majority, it
excuse for
was
the sound.
filmed on location in Louisiana. When you
Yeah.
look up like where the sets and everything else were taking place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It
Interesting.
was just it's like it was dubbed later. And so I don't know if it was all Italian actors where their accents would have sounded bad and so then they had someone
Oh.
else dub them later, but yeah, it was filmed originally in English. So it was marketed. This is an interesting like marketing side note too, where it's called The Beyond, just referring to, the beyond.
Yeah.
It's something out there. That the original in Italian title of this was and what flashes up on screen and you will live in terror of the afterlife. Like the whole basically log line is right up there. Like,
Yeah.
and you will live in terror of dot 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 the afterlife was the title card of the movie.
Wow.
And so the afterlife, the beyond, like that's how that get translated. It
Okay.
actually was retitled, which often happens with foreign films, to the Seven Doors of Death in America, which that's a way cooler, like that's backwards to
Wow.
what I would think. Normally you have to tone things down for our American audience. Like,
Yeah.
just call it the beyond. Like they don't know what they're getting themselves into. But in Italy, we're going to call it the Seven Doors of Death and like lean into the fact that this is a gnarly movie. That was actually backwards.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, the fact that they throw the whole ass tagline on the title card when you're watching the movie too is an interesting tidbit of how it was titled. And also the internet will tell you that this was a 1983 release, but also when I watched it on AMC Plus, it says The Beyond: 1981.
Oh, interesting.
Just
Okay.
a very different movie landscape, the way things were marketed and released and consumed back in the 1980s for horror. But I'm glad that it's survived. It was a video nasty. It was outlawed in Great Britain
Oh, wow.
whenever it came out. So that I talk about, like, sometimes I go to ChatGPT for suggestions. Sometimes I go to the lists of things that governments don't want you watching, and those are the good ones to watch.
It's a good one to pull out. 1981, not 83. Yeah, The Beyond sounds a little more like ethereal, a little more, John Travolta's an angel, Michael, or something else. The
Sure, yeah.
Beyond. Oh, The Seven Doors to Hell sounds a lot worse.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. The Beyond. And like you said, AMC Plus, Shudder, as well as other services, Fubo TV, Philo, Rent on Apple TV, things like that. Take us to October 8th,
October 8th. This was yesterday. This was, or
two
no,
days ago.
2 days ago. Hotel Transylvania 3. I skipped over this as I was looking through because, again, I have a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just me and him, mom's off at a book club or a cookbook club or whatever it is that she does. And so we fire on something that's Halloween adjacent that's good for a 2-year-old. And this is Adam Sandler goes on vacation, right? He gets blamed whenever he does like a grown-ups movie that it's just him and his buddies and they get to go on location and shoot. This is an animated movie. They were all in sound booths anyway, but all of the monsters
thing.
just go on vacation. And so the Hotel Transylvania series is about Dracula who owns a hotel, right? Dracula is voiced by Adam Sandler. And Kevin James and all the usual suspects are in these movies, as Frankenstein and the Wolfman and your classic Universal monsters. And they own a hotel. And so in Hotel Transylvania 1, his daughter falls in love with a human.
Yep.
And he doesn't like that. And then in Hotel Transylvania 2, they have a kid. And Dracula's trying to make sure the kid, knows his Dracula roots. And then in Hotel Transylvania 3, they go on a cruise, which is just a hotel on water. And there's a Kraken, and Adam Sandler, who's been a single Dracula for all this time because his wife died a long time ago. So he's been raising his Dracula vampire daughter alone. He falls in love with the human girl that's the cruise ship captain, but turns out she's a descendant of Van Helsing, whose their family mission is to defeat Dracula.
Yep.
But eventually they fall in love. The power of love wins out, and girl Van Helsing convinces her great great grandpa or whatever that Dracula's not so bad because it's a cute kids movie.
It's cute.
The climax of the movie is that the Macarena is the most powerful, uplifting song in the universe. There is a DJ battle between great great grandpa Van Helsing, who found this scroll that can control the monsters with a song or whatever, and then Dracula's human son-in-law has a DJ spinning equipment in his backpack, and they have a DJ battle, and eventually the power of the Macarena and a dance on a cruise ship beats the powers of evil.
Which is just the best way to beat evil, with a nice little dance number.
That's right.
Can I share my screen for 2 seconds and hope
Please
that
do.
this audio plays through? I saw this before I ever saw a clip of the movie, and you're going to understand why I was a little shocked. So here's this moment where he gets taken into the monster, but then the music comes on.
Blueface, baby.
What the?
Yeah, I bust down, Tatiana. Yeah, I want to see you bust down. Bust down, Tatiana. Bust down, Tatiana. I wanna see you bust down. Pick it up, now break that shit down. Break it down. Speed it up, now slow that shit down on the gas. Slow it down. Bust it, bust down, bust down.
Dance moves match.
Bust down on the gas. Bust down, Tatiana. Bust down.
We're just gonna leave it there. All that to say, I'm watching this and I was like, wait, Hotel Transylvania has what song at the end of it? Bust Down Tatiana?
No, it's the
No,
Macarena.
it's the Macarena, but the dance moves do match. And when you're watching it, you're like, oh, these scenes really line up.
I buy
This is
it.
great. Fun fact with this one. So my friend Schrader, who we've had on the pod, creative buddy, and whatever else, this is one of the first movies he worked on when he got to Sony Animation.
Right
I
on.
remember him texting me being like, Mel Brooks just walked in, as did Selena Gomez, as did whoever. They're all at the ADR booth right by my office. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he worked on some of the scenes. And it's funny how this movie is the third, in a line of animated movies, whatever else. But for everyone working there, it's not like they take it any differently. It's not like they're like, oh, it's another sequel, whatever. We're just like going to put a couple people on and kind of toss it out there. There's a lot of storyboarding and work of like, we're going to do a very complicated underwater scene, diving and scuba diving and all this stuff where you're like, oh, it's fun to see craft still part of what would have in the past just been straight to direct
to video.
VHS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing the Disney thing. And, the hopes was in 1999 that Toy Story 2 proved that sequels can also be cinematic experiences.
Yeah.
We can put them in theaters. But then the whole of the 2000s, we just went right back to churning them out and putting them on VHS.
Yep.
Horror sequels have often done a similar thing where they get to theaters because horror fans are idiots. But we started this week talking. This is a nice little coming around in a circle. You asked me if I wanted to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 or the Craft remake, or usually not. Like, I guess I will, but it doesn't. I know it's not going to be good. I expect a certain level from sequels, and they usually are that.
Yep. Well, this sounds like a fun vacation sequel. 2018's Hotel Transylvania Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation.
It captivated a 2-year-old for most of the runtime. That is my recommendation.
What more can you ask for as a father? That's what's important.
That's right.
How about yesterday's film? Where did you move from there?
Ghost Watch.
Ghost Watch.
Also available on Shudder, AMC Plus. This was talk about direct-to-video. No, this was just a TV broadcast. That's a feature-length experience that aired on BBC.
Okay.
On October 31st, Halloween night, 1992.
Ooh.
With no preamble saying this is a fictional story that painted itself as just welcome in, I'm the host, and it's a guy that BBC audiences in the 90s would recognize, just like a guy that would host these sorts of things, like a telethon on PBS or something, saying, here's our phone banks, here's our paranormal expert, we're going to go on the scene, with our reporters out there, and we're going to see if we see some ghosts tonight. And for a while, they don't, and it very convincingly draws you in that you are just watching this television event, and they go to commercial, like even as you're watching it, they go to commercial and then they come back and he says, hey, our phone banks are still open. We're taking calls, tell us your experiences with ghosts, all while they're trying to pad time while they're trying to see if they can get an actual ghostly disturbance at this house that's supposed to be haunted that they've, sent their on the street reporter to. And then eventually we find out, as you would expect, that it was just the girl that was kind of banging on the pipes, and it was a hoax the whole time. And then you find out that there was a ghost there, and not only was the ghost there, but it has traveled through the television screen to the studio.
Wow.
Where they thought they were safe. And then the final is that the ghost can travel through your TV and come to your house too. Oh. And all while people are watching this, some people were duped. They weren't like making it out, like they weren't making the movie trying to dupe you, but they made it convincingly enough that it could. It's very War of the Worlds, the iconic story from America in the radio days where Orson Welles the War of the Worlds, and people thought that aliens really were landing, and this was a real news broadcast that was announcing it. This was just a little television special that, hey, maybe we'll see if we can see some ghosts today. And then they do at the very end. And it captured audiences so much that it has not been re-aired on the BBC since.
Oh my gosh. War of the Ghosts. All right. Truly scary. I mean, you
Ghost
watching
Watch.
it being 92, you were born what, 91?
I was born 92.
You were born 92. That's right. Okay. So from the year of your birth, does it hold up enough where you're like, this is engaging, I'm fully
Heck
into
yeah.
it? Or did it feel really dated?
It was dated, but in a way that, because its conceit from the beginning was we are announcing this like it's really happening. All the other found footage movies, even the good found footage movies that can find a reason why they're holding a camera,
Yeah.
why would we be going to a theater to see this? Right? Yet there is still that barrier of disbelief where, sure, in Blair Witch, right? Oh, we've found this footage. Okay, then why'd you make a movie about it if there's a real witch out there killing people? Why didn't you turn this into someone that can do something about it? Why am I going to see it, right?
Yeah.
But this was just a TV broadcast where nothing's happening for most of the runtime because because we don't expect there to be ghosts. And then there are. Like, that's the way it would happen, right? If we're like in a haunted house trying to see if we can hear, we have all the equipment, we're trying to see them on this mass spectrometer or whatever you got, and we don't for a very long time until we do. That's how, so it comes in with the conceit that this is how you could really make this happen. And they do just such a great job of making it a convincingly television broadcast. It was filmed, 4:3 aspect ratio to be on TV, but it was filmed by film people. And so you listen to conversations with the directors where they talk about, we had this constant fight over production where we wanted to make it really, use the language of these TV telethon kind of things instead of making it look like a movie. In a movie, you cut, it's not everything is Jack Bauer 24 where everything happens in an hour of real time. But on television, if you're doing this, you have to convince people that this is just, the clock's running. This is just a live thing that's happening. So yeah, like I say, for most of it, they're just kind of padding time because nothing's happening. So they go over to the phones and they go to the man on the street interviews and they, okay, nothing's happening. Hey, paranormal investigator that we got here in studio, vamp for a little bit. And all of that's happening and it feels natural. And to know that it was scripted and it's a movie is such a great exercise of filmmaking. I'm just impressed by this.
Wow. I mean, yeah, you look it up a little bit. It's like very controversy and misleading the public, false rumors, all kinds of fun ththings where it's like, ooh, that's kind of fun. Psychological effects on those who watched.
My favorite behind the scenes story is they flash a phone number like 5 minutes in where, they have the phone banks right there. They flash a phone number that you can call. So on the night that it was broadcast, they really did man that phone number. That was the phone number that people would expect, like at BBC, that they would use for Saturday mornings, when something would happen. This is the phone number that goes to the BBC phone banks. So on the night of Halloween, they have, people that obviously weren't in the movie, but they have people manning a phone where if people called in, they would talk to a real paranormal investigator and tell their stories. And none of the real people's stories made it onto the broadcast because, they'd already filmed it. It was a movie. Those were actors telling their quote unquote stories. But on the night of broadcast, people were calling in with stories about like, hey, my uncle saw a ghost one time. And they didn't know that they weren't part of this movie.
They were part of the mockumentary. That's wild.
So I came in, I knew that things that I knew about Ghost Watch before I just fired it up on a Thursday afternoon was it was a mockumentary about ghosts. Mm-hmm. And when I think mockumentary, I think also British origin, The Office. I thought it was going to be a comedy. I thought that this was going to be specifically making fun of a documentary crew trying to find ghosts in a comedic way. It was played perfectly straight. It is a mockumentary in the fact that it's not a real documentary, but it's never comedic. You never get let in on the fact that it's not real. And that's what's so good.
Wow. Can I share one of the crazy stories I found from Wikipedia?
Yup.
There's an 18-year-old factory worker, Martin Denham, who suffered from learning difficulties, had a mental age of 13, died by suicide 5 days after the program aired. And on his note, he wrote, "If there are ghosts, I will be with you always as a ghost," to his parents. And they said the problem was the house had faulty central heating and the pipes knocked. So as he's watching
That's
this,
the ghost. Yeah.
he dies he kills himself, or sorry, takes his own life 5 days later, leaves that note, and it full on went to court. And the Broadcasting Standards Commission were just trying to hold back these parents from suing and everything else. And in the ruling, they stated the BBC has a duty to do more than simply hint at the deception it was practicing on the audience. There's a deliberate attempt in the movie to cultivate a sense of menace.
Yeah.
Wow.
There kind of is.
It does it.
When a movie can bring up conversations of the media's responsibility to the public,
Yeah.
you have succeeded. And they very much succeeded in duping the public, but they also succeeded from a filmmaking and craft perspective.
Yeah.
That these are the things that we talk about now. 30. How old am I? It's 36. No, 1992. 33 years later.
Yeah. They talked about two other boys, 11 and 14, who both had PTSD for at least a few months afterwards. And then the article goes, the rapid resolution of their symptoms says they suffered brief anxiety in reaction to the television program. Well, duh. You know, like, okay. I had years of anxiety from Mars attacks as a kid, so thank you for that. Anyway.
Sue Tim Burton.
So Ghost Watch, again, Shudder, AMC Plus. This sounds like a fun one to watch.
Heck yeah. And because we're removed from that now, going back and watching it, it doesn't capture exactly that. But just, again, picturing why are we making this found footage? It's certainly the precursor to Paranormal Activity and many others, but in a very Paranormal Activity kind of way, where it uses the language of setting up the cameras. And so we're capturing all this because a documentary crew is there to capture it, right? Same sort of premise to enter yourself into. Also, the basic story that they're basing it on, those ghosts, that was the Conjuring 2 plot also in Great Britain. It's that same kind of building that was haunted. So they base it on a real haunting, well, depending on your acceptance of the paranormal, but real stories of a haunting in Great Britain was the basis of this story as well.
That sounds like a blast. All right, I might have to give this one a watch this month.
It really was fun. I recommend it.
Talk to me about today's movies we wrap out this week.
Tristan, we're talking early in the morning. I haven't watched it yet, but I know what I'm going to watch. And after enjoying Ghost Watch so much, I wanted to get into that War of the Worlds spirit. And there was a 2025 War of the Worlds that came out.
No.
So today I will be watching the highly acclaimed, the reviewed War of the Worlds 2025.
I watched this movie already.
You have. This is one of those that you don't have to. I know that this is your job. Like, I know that.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to watch movies that you don't want to watch.
No. I more so had seen so many TikTok clips and stuff. I was like, this can't be a real
I have a morbid curiosity. I knew I was going to watch this at some point this year because I want to see.
It was morbid. It sure was morbid because I was like, what is going on now? Okay, so the director of War of the Worlds, this 2025, was a producer on Unfriended, which is that behind the screen shot at one location. It's all just kind of done through Zoom.
So this is the way to do quote unquote found footage. It's a way to make your budget just shoestring some bubble gum, and sometimes it works. And I've heard that sometimes it doesn't in the case of War of the Worlds.
Folks.
But if you're gonna tell a War of the Worlds story, I get the premise. I get coming at it from this way that we're doing, because Searching is quite good. Unfriended, there's 2 Unfriendeds I think now. Mm-hmm. Some of those movies, like, you do buy in a little bit of just showing the Zoom screens and just showing, you get a call and all of a sudden you jump to a phone aspect ratio on a big screen in a movie theater. And I like that sometimes, and sometimes it really works. And honestly, a War of the Worlds story kind of should be told like this, coming in. I haven't seen it yet. So if you're going to approach it the way that Ghost Watch did, where this is guerrilla, modern media and modern news, I'm seeing this, and so I'm going to jump on and chat, talk to chat, fire up the Twitch stream and say, hey, aliens are coming. It's a very 2025 interpretation of doing the radio broadcast that fooled people. You just got to do it well.
I think that's partly why I had to see it because I was like, you know what? There's something in my brain that goes, this is a fun conceit or prep for this kind of story because it is mixing the radio broadcast with today's tech with War of the Worlds story. Okay. It was shot in 15 days. Production lasted 15 days. Post production took 2 years, if that tells you anything on the CGI and effects versus the physical footage. Yeah, I don't want to color it too much. I know you've already seen and heard a lot.
Yeah,
I'm excited to talk next week more about what your thoughts are on it.
All right. But this is
Yeah.
this is the storytelling that I do over the course of 31 days where,
Yeah.
if I watch a couple really high class thrillers, then I got to watch a schlocky 80s slasher. And after I've watched, a couple really hard, make you feel down, sometimes I throw in a kids movie with Dracula and Frankenstein. And after I watch something really great like Ghostwatch, it has me curious about getting back to the roots of, where Ghostwatch was inspired by War of the Worlds. Let's watch a new War of the Worlds that would theoretically be inspired by the likes of Ghostwatch and then the found footage craze that swept movie and horror movies for the next 30 years after it.
Just strap yourself in a little bit for the Amazon takeover because this was originally a Universal Pictures movie that they were going to bring out theatrically. I think they saw some early footage and such and were like, we got to sell this thing. So therefore, Amazon comes on and buys it, and therefore, Amazon comes on and buys it. And they put in an Amazon delivery driver character and a lot more Amazon product placement and branding throughout the movie.
Hey, what's more accurate to be on your computer screen than ads for Amazon on the side and on the bottom banner? And
Well, I'm talking a delivery driver is like a key character in the movie, and
goodness.
also the Amazon Prime air delivery with a drone is like a key moment in the film, and there's no more like scary capitalism, real horror than realizing what's happening on this film where you're like, what are they offering to a homeless man? What's even happening right now? Forget it. Like Bezos is chuckling, as did everyone else who watched this movie. So yeah, it'll be a fun one. I mean, honestly, I went to hate watch it and I did, but I did watch the whole thing. And I was like, okay, it was a thing.
But then after that, did you stay on Amazon Prime to watch whatever it suggested next?
Absolutely
Did they get
not.
you? Yeah,
I closed it out of spite. I was like, I should cancel the service. Now, I did tell like 5 friends at work, you have to watch at least parts of this. And most of them jumped around. They were like, I've seen enough. But terrible quotes. Ice Cube is just laughing all the way to the bank on this, as is Eva Longoria.
Any way you can get that Bezos money.
Gotta get that Bezos money. Yeah. So you know what? Good on Cube. Rapper to crapper sometimes. All right. Well, I guess next week we'll pick it back up there and hear the rest of you review on More of the Worlds. Of course, that can be streamed on Prime. And
Really?
any last
Would have never
notes?
guessed.
Any last notes before we hop off today?
Yeah, during the next week, I think that I will be watching a Paranormal Activity sometime before the end of this year just to get back to I actually missed those. I was an old enough teenager and already into good, quote unquote, good horror movies at that point that I viewed that as just it was a trick. It was a gimmick to get you in there. And so I'm going to go back and watch the first Paranormal Activity that's also inspired by this little run of Ghostwatch and War of the Worlds here too. During the next 7 days is the 13th of October, which is when I watched the next in the series of the Friday the 13th. And I finally made my way to the remake with Jared Padalecki. So that's what's on the docket for this year. And then I'm out of those. I ran out of Halloween's last year. I'll run out of Friday the 13th this year. And so I think that also this week I'm going to be firing up A Nightmare on Elm Street to start working my way through the final head of the horror trinity of slashers.
The poor film that lost out to Silent Night, Deadly Night on its opening weekend.
Exactly. It's not all about the
Darn.
box office, folks. Sometimes it is your cultural impact, and Freddy has truly had that more than Santa Claus.
The little Freddy that could. The little Freddy that could. Well, I think that's a perfect way to end it today. We are going to have all the movies we've discussed thus far linked in the show notes. And until next week, watch good movies and TV and make it horror.